Hey friends! Can I call you a friend? Today, we'll be discussing the process of web design. Are you ready? In the last video, pinag-usapan natin kung ano yung ibig sabihin ng web design at ano yung role natin as designers in the process. And basically today, we'll be discussing more about the process of web design. Paano ba siya ginagawa? Paano ba tayo mag-uumpisa? So, mahati natin yung design process into 5 stages. So, we call that the 5D design process. So, first is discover. In the discovery stage of the design process, this is the initial phase wherein we ask several questions to the client prior to starting the project. Kasi kailangan malinaw sa atin kung ano yung i-design natin. We can ask many questions as much as possible to clarify yung web design na gagawin natin. But here are some questions that might give you an idea. First is, what are the business goal? Ano ba talaga yung pinaka-goal ng business kung bakit sila bubuo ng website? Pangalawa is, who are the customers? Anong age, anong occupation, saan nakatira? Kasi mahalaga mapag-aralan natin or malaman natin yung mga bagay na yun kasi dun magbabase primarily yung design. Say, corporate yung target ng business. So, if corporate ang target na business, we will be designing in a much serious note or serious tone. Or if younger generations or student or youth or millennials will be either using bold colors or bold images, lifestyle or something, depending on who or what are we trying to target. What market, what chunk of the market are we trying to target with this website. Next is, what is the company? Kailangan nating malaman anong industry ba yung company, ano yung products nila, ano yung services nila, o ano yung ino-offer nila primarily. Kasi knowing the company will give you much idea of how you will do the design. Because their products, their services will give you some sort of direction on which you want to convey the message of the company. Third is, what content will appear in the website. Sabi nga, sa web design, content is king. So kung dati, sanay na tayo gumawa ng mga lorem ipsum, when you are handling the client, it is best if you know what will be the content of the certain page. Ano yung makikita mo na dun sa website? Ano yung dapat mong ilagay dun? And that is an important part kasi mas madali mo silang maayos at mas madali mo silang mali-layout if you have the exact content that will be online. Or, if not, at least the client must give you the idea of what has to be there. And, any visual considerations. So, meron ba silang branding? If they got a branding or branding guidelines, then good. You know what you are going to use. But if not, you have to ask what type of font would they want, colors, kung may colors man sila na preferred, or what are not to be used, mga restrictions ng design. And lastly, any marketing consideration. So, basically, alam naman natin na ang website is somehow inclined with their marketing efforts to somehow get visibility in the internet. What has to be there to help marketing do its job, since web design is mostly part of their marketing. Bang! The second step of the 5D is to define. You have to know the scope of your work. In this stage, we will be talking about project management. First of them would be the time frame or the delivery date. You have to agree on a certain specific date, which will always based on the client, but at least you have this idea of when you have to finish the project. When you know the delivery date, you know parang meron ka ng basic idea of how you would rate the client. Paano mo siya bibigyan ng ceiling sa pricing. Which goes to the next idea or the next bullet point, which is define the budget. So, you have to know how much are the client willing to pay for this project. Based on the discovery part, dapat alam mo na kung magkano mo sila i-charge, ano ba yung kailangan na nandun sa website, at kung magkano lahat yon. I myself, I usually go with project-based pricing. So, kasi parang mas malinaw yon within client and me. Since fixed na yung budget namin, walang mag-over-exceed, walang mag-underpay. Some designers are doing hourly rate. Also sa defined budget, kailangan ibigay mo na yung terms nyo. Say, how will it be? Is it 50% down or 50% when the project is finished? For myself, what I usually use is I ask for the 50% upfront. Then, depende sa process ng designing, then I will ask for another 25% when we're almost there. Then, another 25% after the delivery of the final product. Next bullet point would be the ownership. So, sino may-ari after nito? Can you add them to your portfolio or not? Kasi kailangan malaman natin yung rights ng client. Yun yung pinoprotektahan natin, yung kanilang copyright in terms of legality. So, we have to know or we have to define the ownership after the project or before even the project started. Next would be the assets. Kanino nga manggagaling yung mga assets? Say, logos or backgrounds or icons. And lastly, after those things have been defined, you need to place them in a black and white. Kailangan nasa papel. Kailangan may agreement kayo. So, worst case scenario, at least you have something to show the client. You have something to agreed upon. Diba? Kailangan may mapakita ka sa kanila na ito yung pinag-usapan natin. Hindi lang lahat nasa salita lang, diba? So, for the contract part, I will add the link on the description below. There's this contract that we designers usually use or pattern to. Just read the description to check it out. Next is the real design. This is the real deal. Dito tayo binayaran. Ito na tayo. Sa design na tayo. The idea of overall look and feel. The bullet points would be look for inspirations. Basically, kailangan maghanap ng nearest idea or nearest identical idea to theirs. Say, look for their competitors. How are the competitors are doing? Another thing is look at the same feel na hinahanap nila, say for corporate or for vintage, whatsoever. And after that, try to capture those ideas into one single file. Say, make a style tiles. If you don't know anything about the style tiles, I'll be adding the link to the style tiles below. So, style tiles is a process wherein you get bunch of ideas and sort it into a single document to show the client. Basta yun yung magde-define ng look and feel without even going to the final comp. Kasi mas madaling gumawa ng style tiles in the beginning of the project, then agreed upon it, and then work with the design. Then doing a final design, a final mock-up, then show to clients and get some rejections. Next is create a wireframe. So when it comes to wireframing, it doesn't necessarily have to be shown with the client, but you have somehow a sense of the layout, a sense of the grid, para maintindihan nyo somehow kung paano nyo sila i-code at kung paano nyo sila i-design based on sa wireframe. We'll go to the last bullet points, which is to create the actual mock-up or the actual composition. Then that part would be shown to the client after. Then we'll start on the fourth process, which is creating a prototype, or which is the development, the actual development of the site. Somehow, development of the site or the website depends upon the project itself, kung ano yung kailangan nila. But mainly, we have these considerations of first, you have to create the HTML, then the style, the overall look, and the behavior. After those, you have to take into consideration is the client will be using CMS or what we call the content management system. Will they be using Joomla or Drupal or the good old WordPress, or will it be just plain codes? Diba? How would the customer will be managing the content of the website? Then we go to the launch of the product or of the project, which is the deploy. This is the part wherein we go live. Ang process nga ng deployment is on the hardware or software installation. Say we have CMS already working, then data conversion. Anong data or paano kukunin yung data at isi-send dun sa client? Next would be the user training. Basically instruct or have basic instructions or documentation of how the system works. Support training, you have to teach the client or whoever will be managing the website on how to do simple tasks like adding listings or adding content or editing this and that. So that way, hindi na sila pupunta tayo every time they have some edits or some additions to the web page. Especially if they are using CMS. Lastly, the post-implementation review. On the deployment, din na pumapasok sometimes yung stress test. What would be the bugs that would have to be fixed? Yung responsiveness or browser compatibility. So to sum it up, the 5D process would be, first is discover, then define, then design, then develop, and lastly, deploy. So if you are new to web design or new to the industry or having your first client, this could be a good start to spearheading your own project. So then again, thank you so much for watching my video. So if you have comments, suggestions, please leave a comment below. Or if you like the video, hit like. If you don't like it, just dislike. And yeah, since you're here, you can subscribe to the channel and we'll be doing future videos real soon. So talk to you later. Bye. Subscribe. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe.